everybody. Welcome to another one of our People of Good News. And today we have Jennifer Crawford with us. And many of you may know Jennifer because she is involved in like everything we do at the church and just does such an awesome job and like has one of the biggest servants' hearts around in our church. Just start off. Why don't you just give us a little kind of background about you, where you grew up in life, and give us your story.
I grew up all over with my parents. My dad worked with the cement division of U.S. Steel, and I was born in Pittsburgh. We moved multiple times by the time I was in college. So we went Pittsburgh, Greensburg, Upper St. Clair, Massachusetts, Longmeadow. My dad had an office in Boston, then Allentown, and from Allentown we moved to Birmingham. And that's actually how we found out about the beach here.
Yeah.
And from Birmingham, moved back to the Philadelphia area and was there and met my husband. And 33 years later, I'm so blessed to be married to my best friend and my honey cakes. So
That's great. Now, who did you work for? Because I heard you traveled like 40 some weeks a year at one point.
I worked for Scott Paper, which then became Kimberly-Clark, and I did supply chain and logistics for them. And then I worked for a private label company that does wet wipes and coffee filters.
Now that you say that, I
out of
remember during the hurricane when we got that like semi full of wet wipes.
Yes, that was from our old employer, Rockline Industries, which is a private label manufacturer of wet wipes and coffee filters. And you are correct.
That was so cool of them because people were using them like it was like a shower. It was like the greatest thing ever to just take those things in. That was such a blessing. So that was cool. Tell us a little bit about how y'all how'd you get into real estate then?
2007. We came to check on our condo here. We met with our old realtor and she goes, "Oh, you guys should move here." And it was like, yeah, no. And we finished our conversation and then Greg and I went over to the beach, surprise, surprise. And we had this fabulous conversation about what was important to us in our life. And as you said, I was traveling a lot. I was traveling about 45, 47 weeks a year then.
Wow.
And we just sat there on the beach and we prayed for guidance and clarity. One of the things we had talked about was moving here full time. But of course, you wouldn't say anything about it. 2 weeks later to the day, our children's pastor comes up to us at our church in Arkansas. And she goes, "I had a dream about you two, that you were living and working in Florida." And it was like, we had told no one. And we, being the bad Christians that we are, we went, "Dear God, that was just a fluke. Please give us guidance and clarity in our life." And 3 days later, a woman who rented from us for a couple years in a row sent an email and said, "Can you help me with some rentals? My friends and I, we want to come down for the jazz festival." And she ended her email, "You're doing God's work." And it was like, I've never met her, never spoke to her. Our communication has just been via email. So we put our house on the market. And at the time, there were 6 years supply of inventory in Northwest Arkansas in Walmart country. And there were over 60 houses on the market in our neighborhood. Over 40 had been on for over a year.
Wow.
And from the time we put our house on the market to the day we closed was 7 weeks, and we sold for more than the ask.
Wow.
And we picked up and moved to the beach. And in moving here, we decided, we kind of hooked up with our friend who was the realtor, and we did get involved in managing rentals, and that is why I got my real estate license.
Well, that's cool. Tell us a little about your faith journey and all of that.
So Mom and Dad, God love them, I hope I don't tear up. We went to church, Sunday school, youth group. That was a very, very important part of our life. But at the same time, I decided when I was in college that I knew better and kind of it all need I had things in control. Um, where I needed God was just to go to church 2 weeks before my parents came to town so I would know where the bathrooms and such were when they were there. And
It's pretty
Greg
cool.
and I and Craig and I we got married. We got married in the church, but it totally church fit into our terms, my terms. And I got transferred with Kimberly Clark out to Wisconsin. A friend that I worked with had no idea his wife had been going to Lutheran seminary, and they got transferred at the same time as us. And she goes, "Oh, you need to meet this Pastor Nancy." And oh wow, we went back to church to hear Pastor Nancy when it was just like we were at a really low spot. It was like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
this is what we have been, been missing, what we had buried, and we needed to be part of the church and get back to our faith and all of that. And our um, from there, it just kind of increased as we got more and more involved, whether it be with Sunday school, volunteering, Via de Cristo, Walk to Emmaus, and it has brought us to where we are today. And
Now, y'all serve like just rock stars at the church. What is it that what do you enjoy so much about that?
well, there's no doubt that I love our church family, and really our church family is like family to us. But my gosh, God has just been he's so good. How can we not serve is kind of where I'm at.
One thing that happened as a big part of your story is recently just your parents passing away. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
When we moved to the beach, that was one thing that we were actually living much closer to them in the Atlanta area. They were in Roswell, Georgia. Dad ended up passing away suddenly, recovering from a successful heart surgery in December of 2016. And my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2017. I am so thankful for the time that we got to spend with them, and especially with my mom there at the end. And one of the things with mom was she really didn't like going to church like she would with dad before. So it was, she'd watch it on TV. And their church, Roswell United Methodist, did live stream their services. Mom was not a techie with her phone or iPad at all. So between my sister and I, we could help her watch the service on her iPad sometimes, but otherwise she did it on TV. And that was so important to my mom to have that church service.
Yeah.
And that was something normal in her life, to have always gone to church on Sunday. And that just brought her such a comfort and peace. But when she could watch the Roswell United Methodist service, then it was the people she recognized and knew personally. And she might see my niece in a service or part of their Seekers Sunday school class, or Pastor Nancy that she loved, and such. So it was a much more personal thing when she was able to do that. As you know, when mom passed, on our way home, we stopped in and saw you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very important to us that what was done in memorial to my mom was that our church had that capability. And that was something that just very much continued to be on our heart. And I think, that was that was important to us. Mom passed away September 21st, 2018. And it was I remember this still so vividly. It was the Tuesday after that. We weren't like, the car was still loaded, and we pulled in, and we met with you, and you prayed with us, and we had great conversation, and that's when we shared what we wanted.
Yeah. So just to like explain that, so your mom passes after that, meaning so much to her, and then y'all made that decision to say we wanted to do that at our church, folks like that, and then we find ourselves. So about January, Michael started working on that because of that gift from your family and all of that, and that was so gracious and so generous and so wonderful. And then here we sit in this quarantine time, and so it's got to be so neat to see God use your mom's legacy in that way to be able to really bring church to our whole church during this time in such an incredible way. And so it's just amazing how God uses and brings so much good out of so many difficult things. And I've thought about that and how that's just such a beautiful picture of redemption and God, bringing good out of difficult seasons. And for me, that gives me so much hope for this difficult season we're in and how much God is going to do good through this as well. And so that's just awesome of y'all. And I think it's such a neat story of how that all worked out.
I think exactly like you say, in addition to, I think also when God places something on your heart,
Yeah.
that you really cannot always fully understand the fathom of how he's going to. So listen to what he puts on your heart.
That's right. That's so good. Well, let me ask you a couple of these rapid fire questions. All right. These are kind of been fun. So what's the book that you've given away more than any other book in your life?
Oh, have it here on my desk.
Oh, yeah?
Falling.
You're the second one who said that. So what's a movie we all need to watch during this quarantine?
Going old school, Disney classic, the original Pete's Dragon with Helen Reddy.
Ooh, there you go. That's I'll show my kids that one. They hadn't seen that one.
It's a musical. It's just, yeah.
That's great. Where are you going out to eat after the quarantine?
This is the most Greg and I have eaten in probably in 30 years. So we're probably going to just take a tour around all the restaurants here in Sandestin. Of course, good old Pizza by the Sea and Wine Bar, and over in the village, some Sunset Bay Cafe and Slick Lips. Yeah, we'll kind of be all over the place, I'm sure.
Sounds good. That's great. Well, tell me this too. What's a scripture that really just means so much to you in your life?
Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5-6.
Yeah.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in every way, and he will show you the path to take.
That's awesome. Well, so one of the things I've been doing at the end of these too is just sharing a book that I really enjoyed, and this meant a lot to me. And as I was reading through this one, it's called Celebration of Discipline by a guy named Richard Foster. And in it, he's got all these different disciplines that we as followers of Jesus, kind of experience and can use. And one of them is this spirit of service. And I just wanted to read this little paragraph from it because I thought it just made me think of you, and I thought it was so good. And he says this, and he's talking about the difference between serving for God or serving really to get the benefit ourselves. And he said, self-righteous service, that requires external rewards. It needs to know that people are going to see and appreciate the effort. It seeks human applause with proper religious modesty, of course. True service rests contented in hiddenness. It does not fear the lights and blare of attention, but it doesn't seek them either. And since it's living out of a new center of reference, the divine nod of Jesus Christ is the only approval, and that enough will make life completely sufficient. And I thought that was so good, and it just made me think, because in full disclosure, I say this to everybody watching, that you weren't thrilled about coming on and telling everybody about that gift, but I know that wasn't for this or any of that, but I just think talking with you, it's so clear that you give thanks to God in that, and that's not about y'all. And I just appreciate you doing that, and it's meant a world of difference to our church in this season. And so, thank you, and thank your mom. Thank God for putting that on your heart.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, sounds good. Well, so when folks are getting the offering in church on Sunday, they're going to see and they're going to know a lot more about you. And I'm glad that you gave us a few minutes to share about y'all.
Oh, thank you. And we love our church family and miss y'all.
Well, we'll see you soon. All right. Thanks again, Jennifer.
Take care.